Welcome to each and every one of you. We are so grateful and glad that you are here at our Universal Church of the Master Speaker Series. And we have an incredible speaker here today, Reverend Chris Brown, who's going to take us on a journey, an exploration of Jewish mysticism and the Kabbalah. And we are so thrilled about this. We've been so excited about this. This is incredible mysticism that can be gathered, including Hebrew as a divine language, the DNA of creation, basically, the Paleo-Hebrew alphabet, the Hebrew Gematria, and Numerology. And Gematria means astrology. It's the study of the stars. The Kabbalah, the tree of life, the Zohar and Tikkun Olam's repairing the world. And I want to share that because there are so many dimensions to Jewish mysticism that I know I only have a breath of. I only have a small understanding of it. But what I believe Chris is going to teach us, as she has studied this an incredibly long time, and she has embraced this in such a deep way and has done amazing research on this. She is going to guide us down these many paths of, of Jewish mysticism. And so we are so grateful, Chris, that you are here for all that you do and bring to our community. And we have a tradition on our program of lighting the candle, which is the symbol of the light and the hope and the healing that we can bring to each other. And as I light this candle, it is simply the reminder that each and every one of us has a part of the light. And when we come together in community, which is what a great deal of Jewish mysticism is about, the community of your inner spirit and the community of your outer world. And when we can claim that, embrace it, and stand in the beauty of that mystery, we welcome you all. And thank you all for being here. And we have a special person, Andrew A., as we called him, Andrew Albanese, who has made his transition and is now gone to spirit, and we honor him. And Chris, I'm just going to go ahead and give it to you, my dear one. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And for those of you who have attended my talks before, you know that I read, and I will be reading this evening, because if I didn't, I would go in so many different directions, we would never come home. So I'm going to go ahead and chat with you here. Yes, a peek under the veil. There's so much that I've been privy to learn in the last year, a lot longer, but studying the last 10 months or a year. And I had told Janet, I said, hey, I'd like to share X, Y, and Z on Sacred Stage. And she goes, oh, that'd be great. And then I started writing it up and I went, well, that's about 7 presentations. So what I decided to do was to limit this presentation tonight to the very basics of basically 3 aspects of Jewish mysticism. We're going to talk about the alphabet, we're going to talk about Gematria, and we're going to talk about the Kabbalah. And I'm just going to start reading, because otherwise I'll start repeating all of this. So I'm very excited to present to you some fascinating information I've learned about Jewish mysticism, the Kabbalah, and other esoterica. For a while now, I've been deeply delving into Judaism in all areas. Recently, I felt that I was about to burst with new learnings. So I'm very excited I was asked to share these with you here on UCM's Sacred Stage. So here's the good news to put you all at ease. Tonight's presentation requires absolutely no background in spirituality, Judaism, Hebrew, or any other esoterica. However, if you happen to have that in your background, you may find this information often finds an interesting place to land. The information presented will be standalone, as well as linked to a vast body of thousands of years of ancient and more recent mysticism and spirituality. It is my hope that at the end of the presentation, you'll have an introductory image of several facets of Jewish mysticism, and you'll know how to take any next step you may choose to delve more deeply into this wisdom work, as you prefer. I will be sharing with you some of my favorite resources that are available online for free and whose content is understandable and accessible to the newcomer level of experience. I am by nature an academic and a historian. I love to learn what came before, how things came into existence, what they were built upon, how they're related to one another, and how the past influences us today. With this way of interacting with information, I tend to view all of creation as a living, vibrant pageant of bits and pieces moving connectedly in choreography, reaching back, thrusting forward, and enveloping all at once. If this is a space that you share with me, you will really enjoy the topic this evening. I'm also an educator and an author, and as such, I need to make sure that my sharing can be understood by the broader audience. To that end, I'll be presenting the information to you with as much context as possible without overwhelming you with the vast multidimensionality that is also available. If you find yourself intrigued with this content, as I did, you will have resources to follow up with. So let's get started. Are there any questions?
Just yourself. That's right.
Christine, go ahead. Christine, go ahead.
Basically, what is mysticism?
It's hard.
Chris, unmute yourself, please.
So without having the definition in front of me, I would say that a way to look at this is those kinds of ideas and concepts and activities that are not bounded by third plane physicality. So mysticism is things like prayer and multidimensionality and energies, those kinds of things. That's what we're going to be dealing with tonight, is things that don't sit solidly on planet Earth all the time. Okay, and maybe you'll get more by just listening, because it's going to every page will have aspects of mysticism in it. Anything else? Okay. All right. So I want to set a couple of boundaries for the presentation. What the presentation does not cover, it is a presentation on Jewish mysticism and traditional Jewish Kabbalah, but I have not included any specific New Age concepts in my presentation. I will be speaking about Hebrew language and linguistics, but I will not be teaching you any actual usable Hebrew. I will be speaking about the Hebrew alphabet, but I will not be teaching you the Hebrew alphabet. I will be introducing Hebrew Gematria or numerology, but I will not be teaching you the full Gematria or Hebrew numerology. I will also not be addressing any astrology or similar cosmological wisdom teachings. All of those are available. It's not in my presentation tonight. I will be referencing the Hebrew Bible, generally similar to what Christians call the Old Testament, mostly the same stuff, but a little bit change in the order. But I will not be dealing with any Christian mysticism or New Testament biblical text. I will be introducing the Kabbalah, the tree of life, at a very introductory level, something to give you a sense of the vast array of wisdom teachings that are available to you if you decide to take a journey down this road. All of these items and more are available online, especially on YouTube. I want to give you the names of 6 teachers that I enjoyed learning the basics from online. Each of these 6 presenters is unique and has a very personal offering and approach. Yes, they're all male, they're all men. I haven't found a female voice that I like yet in this basic mysticism space. Now, if you know how to do a snapshot and you're really nimble on your computer, you could take a photo of this, or you could take a photo of the next page. You can also find me and I'll send you this list. So first of all, the people I really like: in history, Dr. Henry Abramson. In traditional Judaism, we have a scientist, Ephraim. I'll be talking about him for a moment. There's a guy with biblical history. There's an absolute expert on the Kabbalah and the Zohar. There's a really good set of presentations on the basics of the Hebrew alphabet by a rabbinical student. There's some good intro information on Gematria. And then there's a really interesting guy in broader esoterica. And when I say broader, he really deals with the occult, but he's got some great Kabbalah stuff. I'm going to show you a little bit more on the next page. So this is a time, if you choose to take a snapshot, this would be a good one. You can just kind of peruse this for a moment. The history guy is super solid. The scientist, he's a traditional, he's probably Hasidic, I'm not sure, but he's totally traditional Jewish guy. And he went and he got a degree in science, several degrees in science. And then he says he found God in a petri dish. And he's amazing because he comes at everything from a very scientific view and at the same time, totally biblical, etc. There's a guy named David Solomon who's very passionate, super emotional, super different people here. I love David Solomon. I listen to him and I can't tell if I should stand up and cheer or sit down and cry. He's very emotional. I really like him. Rabbi Daniel Mott spent 18 years translating the Zohar. I can't even begin to tell you what that was like, 23 volumes. Then just the other day, I discovered this rabbinical student, Luis Pinate, who has really, really good commentaries on one letter at a time. And a lot of things he said I would have liked to put in, and I couldn't put it in this presentation. So if you like the letter stuff, really, really jot his name down. There's a guy, Rabbi Mordecai Kraft, who has a very interesting presentation that's, again, accessible on the Gematria. When I say accessible, I mean they don't go into all this conspiratorial, super weird stuff. They just tell you like it is. My presentation today is just kind of like what it is. I'm not going into a bunch of conspiratorial stuff, which is like what the fringes could be. So these are very, very solid sources. And then the last guy here, Dr. Justin Sledge. So he has magic, alchemy, some other things. I recommend him if you look for what you're looking, if you find what you're looking for. He's actually also very good. Didn't find any women, but I'll keep looking. All right. So this is another boundary condition. The other thing I want to stress is this point is that we've all had experiences of objective knowledge, like history, and we've all had experiences of belief. And I want to clarify here that with the exception of some of the historical and archaeological information about the evolution of the alphabet, most of what we'll be discussing tonight falls into the arena of belief. I don't want to keep referencing belief throughout the conversation. I'll simply set it up as a boundary up front. Everything I'll be talking about today will fall under the category of belief, and not under the traditional secular notion of history. And that's because somebody very close to me who lives in the house I live in keeps saying, do you believe this stuff? And I'm not sure what to say. So I'm going to say this is what the belief set is. It's fascinating. Whether you decide to take it on, it's a separate issue. Okay. I want to do a blessing for a Torah study. And whenever I go to Torah study every Saturday morning, I go over to Las Gatas, and I really like their in-person Torah study. And they always start with, do you have a dedication? Because when we study Torah, we want to know why we're doing it. And we do it for people and for purposes. So I have a dedication tonight to our dear friend Andrew. And Andrew was a gentle, loving soul, a light among healers, and a spiritual warrior. And I dedicate tonight's presentation to him. We're not going to be studying Torah tonight, per se, but we will nonetheless be engaging the energies and the traditions of centuries of Torah and Kabbalah study. To this end, I'd like to clear the learning space and invite you all to release any limiting ideas or concerns and be open to what's available to you here tonight. My commitment to you is to hold a well-defined and safe energetic space with room for all levels and belief systems. And I thank you for your trust in me this evening. There's a traditional Jewish prayer that is said before studying Torah. It's also often recited before embarking on a Kabbalistic study, because Kabbalah is seen as a deeper and more esoteric layer of Torah wisdom. So I'm going to read the prayer, and I'll tell you what it says. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lasok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot, commandments to do good things, commanding us to engage with words of Torah. One of the major figures in Kabbalah was a rabbi named Isaac Luria, in about, 16th century-ish in there. And he composed a specific prayer that's recited before studying the Zohar, which we'll get to. It's a central text of Kabbalah. And this prayer expresses a desire for clarity, insight, and a connection with the lineage of Kabbalah. May it be your will before you, our God, and the God of our fathers, that you will awaken and prepare our hearts to love and revere you. And may you listen to our utterances and open our closed heart to the hidden studies of your Torah. And may our study be pleasant before your place of honor, as the aroma of sweet incense. And may you emanate to us light from the source of our soul to all of our being. And may the sparks of your holy servants, through which you revealed your wisdom to the world, shine. That's about 400 years old. So for the next couple of minutes, I'd like to bring into your minds a few of the characteristics of spiritual forces that we have all experienced in our lives. We'll take a moment to hold these characteristics in our minds so that we may prime the pump, so to speak, for the observations that we are about to embark upon. So if you want to just sit back, this is going to be we'll call it a guided meditation. Again, I appreciate the trust you have in me. It will be fairly short, but put us in the good space. Don't try to follow too closely. I think of it as taking a warm bath. Just be in the bathing of the meditation. Don't try to track it. First of all, let's consider the Shekhinah, the feminine divine presence in the world. The Shekhinah represents the Garden of Eden, the fruitful land of Israel. It represents the gathering of the waters. It represents freedom. Now let's add into the mix the Yesod, the masculine divine presence in the world. The Yesod represents the tree of life, the holy mountain. It represents peace and the covenant of the rainbow. And now let's consider Nitzach and Hod. Nitzach represents eternity, victory, and endurance, while Hod represents glory, surrender, and humility. Nitzach represents action and initiative, while Hod represents reflection and appreciation. These are complementary energies. Nitzach's drive is balanced by Hod's humility, and Hod's surrender is strengthened by Nitzach's endurance. For a good life, these forces need to be in balance. Now we're going to consider two more spiritual forces, Din and Chesed. Din is judgment. Chesed is loving kindness. Again, two opposing forces. Din or judgment provides structure and order, while Chesed or loving kindness allows for growth and flourishing. The interplay between Din and Chesed creates a harmonious reality. Both are necessary to achieve balance in this world as well as in the divine. Now we're going to consider Chokhmah and Binah. Chokhmah, loosely translated as wisdom, is associated with the initial intuitive flash of insight, while Binah, loosely translated as understanding, is the process of analyzing, structuring, and developing that insight into a more concrete form. They are often described as the masculine or seeding aspect of divinity and the feminine gestational aspect of divinity, with Chokhmah as the active initiating force and Binah as the receptive formative force. And now we're going to bring these forces together and see how they are all emanating from the initial point of divine will, the crown or Keter. This point is sometimes compared to the Big Bang, the singular point from which all creation stemmed. In the realm of the knowable and the unknowable, Keter nevertheless qualifies as knowable. And now let's go one step further. What preceded the Big Bang? What preceded the initial point of divine will? As your heads may begin to explode trying to consider this question, let us give this essence an utterance to call it by. The formless, nameless, unknowable, infinitely transcendent Ein Sof. There is no end. In fact, there is no time, no space, no dimensionality to this divinity. It is its own essence itself. And at the same time, it isn't. It exists and it doesn't exist. It's a bit like Schrodinger's cat. God's essence exists before and apart from creation. And that in itself is an aspect that's beyond human comprehension. And from this realm of beyond human comprehension, I invite you to step back with me, step back into the more familiar realms of the intellect, the emotions, the unified consciousness within the soul, to beauty, Tiferet, the balancing harmony and compassion of the heart, to Rahamin, mercy, the physical world, the realm of matter and experience, to Malchut, the kingdom of God on earth. And from this sacred place, the kingdom of God on earth, we begin our discussion tonight. Okay, any questions?
That
All
was
right.
beautiful, though. I would like to just honor you evoking all of those dimensions. Really grounded me.
So for all of you who are light workers and all the rest, do know that we will be opening portals tonight. I trust that you have information and understanding on how to keep yourself safe. And I mean safe, like, let's not forget to close the portals. Let's not go out and forget how to come back. So we will be going out together. And I'll do what I can to remember to audibly bring you back. So this is a reminder for you guys to come back. And in fact, what we're looking at right now on this screen is effectively stone. So you can ground to this 4,000, 5,000-year-old piece of stone. This is a hieroglyphic from Egypt. It's one of my most favorite pictures. It's a true piece from off the wall in a tomb. What we're going to talk about now are the alphabets. So the first early writing systems, the hieroglyph, you guys, you've met some of these before. So you've met the hieroglyphics. Ancient Egyptians developed a system of hieroglyphs, initially pictographic, but also incorporating phonetic and determinative elements. Papyrus, a lightweight material made from reeds, was a significant innovation for writing and document storage in Egypt. So it was carved on or painted onto walls of tombs. It was also put onto papyrus. This is called cuneiform. It was found in it was used in Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia means between the rivers. Potamia, like hippopotamus. Meso meaning in the middle. Mesopotamia, between the rivers. The Tigris and the Euphrates, basically Baghdad. So these forms, especially the ones in the two right-hand columns, were made by triangular sticks, tools. And these are examples of pictographs, or kind of moving toward writing. So where, like, the sun, maybe at one point it looked like the sun in 3500 BC, but at 500 BC, it doesn't look like the sun anymore. That's how it got there, but it doesn't look like it anymore. So it lost that initial representation. The mountain, number 3, and the mountain might have looked like a mountain before, but when you get over to the far right, it really doesn't look like a mountain anymore. Okay. So considered one of the earliest writing systems, cuneiform involved pressing wedge-shaped marks into clay tablets using a stylus. It began as a pictographic system, but evolved to include phonetic elements and eventually became a general purpose writing system. And there's a very, very cool aside. These were done on clay tablets, okay? And you know how stuff disappears, things get flooded out, things get burned. So they set a library, 3,000 years ago, they set a library on fire. But because everything was in cuneiform on clay tablets, it preserved everything. They fired all the clay and now we have the record. Love it. Okay. History has some fun points. All right. The Proto-Sinaitic script. The Proto-Sinaitic, now this has 2 names. Sometimes it's called Proto-Hebrew. it is or it isn't. It kind of is, but there's other names. We'll call it Proto-Sinaitic. Sinaitic refers to Mount Sinai. The Proto-Sinaitic script represents the earliest known form of alphabetic writing. It is considered the ancestor of most modern alphabets, including the Greek and the Latin alphabets. This script, appearing around the 18th century BCE, emerged from Egyptian hieroglyphs and paved the way for the development of various Semitic alphabets. I'll remind you that the word Semitic refers to the son of Noah. He had Ham and Shem and Japheth, I think, this other guy, forget his name. And the descendants of Noah's son Shem are the Semites, and they are the Arabs and the Hebrews and some other people. So when we say Semitic, the word Sem comes from the son of Noah, Shem. So this is the first known script to use a limited set of signs to represent individual sounds rather than entire words or ideas, making it the foundation for all alphabetic writing systems. The simplicity of the alphabet compared to earlier writing systems allowed for wider literacy, potentially impacting social structures and challenging the control of information by elites. So once they moved from like hieroglyphics, you had to know what that was. Cuneiform, you still had to know what it was. Now we're moving into something that has a sound. And as an example, Aleph, that sound Aleph, ah, it's the first sound of the word ox. So if you see an ox over there, you go, oh, look, it's an Aleph or it's an Aluf. There's different ways of pronouncing it. It's an Aleph. So then you know that that sound is ah. And if you say, oh, look over there, it's a bait. Bait is a house. So you know the sound is b. Dalet is a tent door. And there's other things we'll see in this in a minute. Dalet is the door. This actually, well, we'll come back to this. Dalet is the door. There's a fun one. Well, we'll come back. Okay, mem is water. Can you see how that's what water might look like? Water, mem. The word Moses comes from the word water. Mayim, like mayim bialik. That's the word water. Mayim. Okay, so this is Paleo-Hebrew or Paleo-Sinaitic, which means that you could see that it was a picture of something, but it does represent a single sound. Now, this gets interesting. This is the Phoenician alphabet at 800 BC. And they moved from that ox head to this guy. All right. That's the new Aleph Ah sound. This is the B sound, the G, the D. Does anybody recognize what this could be? If you allow your mind to move a little bit, do you know what that could be? It's a D sound. Is there any mathematicians here? Any geographers? What if you turn it when it's flat and make it a triangle flat? Does that help? Do you know this word? We'll come to it in a minute. But what I want to tell you is that Dalet means door. So if I turn over there, I go, oh, there's a Dalet over there. It's a door. But if I'm living in a tent, what shape is my door going to be? It's going to look like that. It's going to fold here and tie back over here. So this is Phoenician. All right. Here's water, M. Here's N, starting to look like something we can recognize. All right. So then we have, coming from Phoenician, the Greeks, the Phoenicians were the sea peoples, and so Greece was pretty close to all of that. And they ended up taking on those same letters, and they turned them into their Greek versions. Now, do you recognize this? Somebody tell me what it is. You're all on mute.
Dalet.
It's a Dalet, yeah, but what is it? What is it in 2025?
Pyramid.
Yeah, what else is it? Come on, mathematicians.
Triangle.
It's a delta.
Mm-hmm.
Dalet is where we get the Greek word delta.
Delta.
In fact, you can go back, use alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Okay. And it continues. All right. So this is Greek. And then from the Greek, we got the Roman, right? So that's an evolution. 800 BC, 600 BC. They didn't have the same sounds, so they did some different things with them. All right. So we're going to talk about the Hebrew alphabet, which you haven't seen yet. So here we have the hieroglyphics, and then we had the Aleph, Bet, Gimel, and then we had the Phoenicians, Aleph, Bet, Gimel. Okay, done all that, right? Yeah. Let me see where we are. Okay. This is the Hebrew alphabet. Now, Hebrew is read from right to left. Aleph, Bet, and then if you're a Spanish speaker, you know that B and V can be the same. So this is B like burro, and this is B de burro and B de vaca. Okay. This is Gamma, Gimel, Dalet, He, Yod, Zayin, and then it goes on. Here we have an M. This is an L, Lambda, Lamed, Mem, Nun. There's some extra letters in here. This one you might recognize, Shin and Sin. This, oddly enough, is where we get our Q. You know, Q is a funny source, and it comes from this guy, Kuf. So this is the origin of the Hebrew alphabet, and the typeset here is very pretty. Some of the text that I pulled off the internet was in kind of more of an Arial type font, and it's not so pretty. So this is the really pretty version. You will see some examples that don't have the flare, basically don't have the serifs, if you will. All right. So we're going to go back here to this wonderful, wonderful picture. I love this one. So this is the journey of the alphabet from the ancient pictures to the Hebrew and the English scripts. How the ox became an aleph, and it also became a Latin letter A. Now this floats my boat. I am weird that way, but I love this. So here we have in ancient Egypt or ancient Canaan, we have the ox head being the aleph. And into Phoenician, it starts to look like that. Now, the Greeks took that guy and they turned it into this early Greek, and then we turned it into a Latin, and here's our modern English. So this yellow line is how we got from Phoenician to, we'll call it, most of the Western alphabets. Cyrillic is different. It's a combination, but generally the Latin and the Greek. But over this way, we have the aleph going to this guy here, and then it starts to get compressed a bit. It changes again. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, it ends up having a different shape. And then in modern Hebrew, and I'm not going to give you a timestamp, it's probably maybe 400 BC. The modern Hebrew looks something like this. Because remember that modern Hebrew was resurrected. So so Hebrew died out and it was resurrected. So modern Hebrew is going to look like the point where Hebrew was dying out. Do you guys remember the language that Jesus spoke? Anybody want to unmute?
Aramaic.
Yeah. So Aramaic is written with Hebrew script, but it's a different language. It's probably as different as German and Spanish, but it's also written with the Hebrew script. So a lot of things if you just look at it, you don't realize it's in Aramaic, but you try and sound it out like, wow, that's really different. Okay. So Hebrew and also Aramaic. All right. Now, let's practice reading Hebrew. You guys can unmute because I want you to answer this question. Can anybody read these words in English?
What are these words?
I don't hear the word.
No, how do I get back?
Oh, thief, thieves, thievery.
Exactly right. Thief, thieves, and thievery. This is how Hebrew works. You have typically 3 consonant sounds with all sorts of vowels running around in between, and they're all related. So in English example, thief, thieves, and thievery. They're not the same letters. They're not, they are in the same order. They're not the same letters. They're in the same order, and all the vowels change, but they're all related. So let's move on. This is Hebrew with a 3-letter root. So Kadesh is holy and sacred. Kodesh means holiness. Mikdash is a temple, place of holiness. Kedusha, sanctity, purity, holiness. Kiddush, the ritual of blessing. Kaddish, the Aramaic prayer praising God recited during prayer and mourning. Kiddushin, a betrothal. An adjective, kadosh, holy and sacred. Mukdash, dedicated. I don't know how many of these I can see. My little thingies in the way. There. Kiddush, to sanctify, and Nit Kadesh, to be betrothed. So this is an example of how Kadesh tells you you're talking about holy and sacred. It's just how Hebrew works. Truthfully, all of those Semitic languages, so Arabic and Aramaic, are going to work like this as well. Now, what about single letters? The Hebrew word for father is av or abba. It's an a and a be, which is an aleph and a beit. So the ox, aleph, plus the beit, house, gives us the letters aleph and beit. Aleph means strength. Beit means house. You pronounce it together as ab or av, and there's other pronunciations, and you get father, which is the strength of the house. Put on your seatbelts. The words ear and balance. Ozin, so that's ozein. Ozin means ear. And there's another word, moznim, and you have the ozen. Oznin is right there. Thousands of years ago, Hebrew had figured out that your balance is related to your ear. And scientifically, we got that in the 19th century. Hand and friend. The Hebrew for hand is yod. And the Hebrew for friend is yodah, yodah. Walking hand in hand. So we're building something here. We're building an essence of there's a different consciousness that we're tapping into here. Let's look at conceptual combinations. The word for truth, emet. So vowels change around. Well, this is down here. Emta, okay? The word for truth is emet, emeta. Well, it's made up of the first, the middle, and the last letter of the alphabet, indicating that truth encompasses all things and endures from the beginning to the end. What's also true is that these 3 letters have a very solid base. Aleph sits solidly on 2 legs. Mem has a very solid base, and tet is also very solid. If you look up the word for lie, they tilt. They're one-legged. Now, in addition, we're going to look at Aleph being related to God. Without Aleph, just 2 letters, met. Met is the word for dead. Without God, there is no life. The Hebrew first letter Aleph here, Aleph, when matched with the last letter Tav, creates the word et. Now, Aleph Tav is the same as what we think of as Alpha and Omega. They just changed where they ended, right? So alpha, Greek is omega, but in Hebrew it's tav. So alpha, tav. Et, this is the word et, aleph and tav, is the totality of God in creation. Aleph is God's oneness, eternity, and creative power. And tet is truth and completion. Together, the totality of God in creation. And this is the most common word in the Hebrew language. And it there's grammatically uses for it. It's untranslatable in and of itself. It's a grammatical function. It's a pointer, but it's talking about the totality of God in creation. And on a metaphysical level, that's another good word for mysticism. On a metaphysical level, since God is the creator of all things, any place that et points is a creation of God. And if you know grammar, et is an accusative pointer, which is a direct object. So every time you have a direct object, you put et in front of it, which means every time you engage a thing, you are engaging God's totality of creation. Welcome to Hebrew. I love this one. I'm gonna give Corky a chance to see if she can figure this out. You guys can figure it out too. See if Corky gets it first. What does this say?
So I will create as I speak, that part.
I will create as I speak. This is from the Bible. God said, let there be light, and light was created. Speech divinely manifests new realities. What is this expression? Can anybody figure it out?
Abracadabra.
Abracadabra. Abracadabra is Hebrew. Abracadabri.
Who
I
knew?
will create as I speak. Abracadabri. Numbers 12:13. I will create as I speak. Abracadabra.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I had fun.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, we're looking at Gematria. Okay, we're looking at Gematria. Now, Gematria is numerology. It's a lot more than that. You can find, if you type in the word Gematria and hit the word image on the internet, you'll get any number of these. You can find these everywhere. I had to hybridize this and put 500 through 1,000 onto the chart because sometimes they don't have them. I won't discuss why, but every letter has a value. So we're not going to learn the values, but they are learnable. You can look these up. Again, just type in Gematria and hit images and you'll get all this stuff. So if every letter has a value, let's look at some of these. We already talked about the word father, Av. Alpha and beta is a 1 and a 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. Mother is I'm going to go back for a second. Whoop. Here's M. See how where M is 40? Okay, that's where I'm going. M is 40. Okay, so Aleph is 1, M is 40, 41. The word for child is Yeled. That's 10 plus 30 plus 4, which is 44. But if you take the number of from father, 1 plus 2, plus the number from mother, 1 plus 40, and you add those together, you end up with 44. So the sum of mother plus father is equal to the count of child. The sum of Av plus 3 plus 41, is the same as the number for Yeled, which is 44. Put on your seatbelts. This is the tetragrammaton. Anybody know what that means? Or what that is? Or how to pronounce it? Okay. Tetra means 4. Grammaton is a word. So this is a 4-letter word. Yod, He, Vav, He. So this letter has 2 parts to it. This has a single part. This letter has 2 parts, single part. Yod He Vav He. Now, if I say Yod He Vav He, and I tell you it's a name for God, can you figure out what that might have turned into in English? It's words we don't say in Hebrew. It's not spoken in Hebrew, but people in English will say it. Do you know what this is?
Like Yahweh?
Yes, that's one. And there's another one,
Jehovah?
Jehovah. So both Yahweh and Jehovah come from Yod He Vav He. But we don't say, I'm spelling it. When I say Yod He Vav He, I'm saying, ABC. I'm not saying his name. So I'm not doing anything wrong, but I would not actually say the word. It's the unpronounceable, and we don't say it. We have other words we use instead. You may have heard of Adonai. You may have heard Hashem. Adonai means Lord, and Hashem means the name. So they put in the word the name in order to not say the name. It's a little bit like what they call he who must not be named, a little bit like that. Now, Yod He Vav He has a number 26. So keep that in mind. I have to move this over. Okay. Number 26, it's 10 plus 5 plus 6 plus 5 is 26. This is the Hebrew name of God, the ultimate divine essence and source of all existence. We're going to come back to the Aleph here. Aleph, which is a 1. The Aleph, written this way, is actually 3 letters. If you break it apart, you can see that long slash and then the 2 smaller letters. So the long slash is the same as another letter, Vav, and you can see that here's the number above the 5, the letter above the 5 is that's a Vav. And these 2 little guys that are a little bit like apostrophes or single quotes, they're also represented by this guy. Now, I told you before, we have a really pretty stuff. Then we have the Arial font. This is all in Arial font. So it's not nearly as pretty, but this letter here in the middle, the diagonal, is the same letter here. Let me say it differently. This portion of the letter Aleph is actually all by itself the letter Vav. This portion of the letter Aleph is all by itself the letter Yod. So Yod He Vav He is 26, right? We saw that a moment ago. This is Yod He Vav He is 26, the tetragrammaton. But if you take the alpha and you break it apart, you ended up with 10 and 10 and 6. You end up with 26. So this is one of the reasons why the Aleph is considered God, the equitable, right? We're talking about mathematical. There's an equitability between Aleph and God, divinity. So when you get into Gematria and you get into the Kabbalah and other things like that, when you see the Aleph, there's a propensity to invoke the fact that God resides there, God bees there, God is being invoked from that letter. Okay, seatbelts on. What I found out when I did the same thing in English, look, G-O-D. G is 7, O is 15, D is 4. Oh my God. 26. All right, next page. That was just like, that was a bonus. I just started laughing. Okay, let's do some more. Biblical examples. God, another word for God is Elohim, and I'm not going to go into what it means, but it's a reference to God. That number is 86. When you put all those letters together, Aleph and Lamed and Het and M, all of those together is 86. So Hateva means nature. And you may have seen shoes. There's shoes, sandals, outdoor sandals called Teva. Those are Israeli shoes. It's like the word nature. So Hateva means the nature. Hateva Hey, Tet, Vet, and Ayin is 86. So nature in Hebrew has the same Gematria value as God. All right, then. We are having fun. Let me see where I am. I'm pretty close to being on time. All right. I have one or two more. I have a couple more. I have one more. Okay, pregnancy, Harion. You have a Hey and a Resh and a Yod and a Vav and a Nun. So that's a Ha, Ra, Ya, Va, Na. Harion. Vav is sometimes a O. Hey is 5, Resh is 200, Yod is 10, Vav is 6, Nun is 271. How many days in a typical human pregnancy? 9 months times 30 days, 270. This stuff is thousands of years old. Okay. Okay. I think I've made my case about the fascinating arena of Gematria. If you like these exercises and you want to learn and study more about how all things are connected, just go look up Gematria on YouTube. And I've given you the person that I think is a good one to start with. And if you have a pencil and you want to jot this down, the name I gave you up front is Rabbi Mordechai, Mordechai, Mordechai Kraft, Kraft. He's kind of a teacher in training, I think, but I found his information was accessible, lots of content, and what I'm trying to steer you away from is, again, conspiratorial and frankly Christian Gematria. And I've said I wasn't going to talk about Christian aspects, and I'm not. But if you do go out on the web and start surfing, you'll find that there's a huge Christian wave that's looking at all of this. So you can decide kind of how you want to work with it. But my recommendation is to go see Rabbi Kraft, Kraft, and he's got a couple of really nice ones to start with. So much more I would love to tell you, and I just can't fit it in. I only have 2 hours. All right, where have we arrived? Kabbalah. Before I move on, do you guys have any questions? We're going to switch gears. Do you have any questions?
I would just like to honor how intricate it is and how it fits into the matrix of so many different traditions.
Actually, I want to hear from Joyce. Joyce, are you on? Joyce, do you have a reaction?
Lisa.
She's my favorite reactioner.
Well, I've been sitting here going into a very deep trance. And at the same time, I am feeling very relaxed and comfortable. And then on top of all of that, I've been sort of like holding back on smiling a lot. You know? And so I'm just feeling this sense of connection. You know, there's a sense of connection. Where we'll go, I do not know. I just know that there is a comfortable feeling I have. And
Thank you.
yeah, so I thank you. Yes.
If anybody else wants to check in right about now, as I say, we are going to take a bit of a left-hand turn. And if you'd like, you're welcome to say something if you think you might need some grounding. Okay.
I would just
just
honor. Go ahead.
Oh, I just think it's fascinating, and I've been sitting here yelling at the screen and saying, "Hey, that's that, and then that's that," and I forgot how to unmute myself. So you didn't get the benefit of my like, oh, that's a delta, you know. But anyway, it's I like it.
Corky, I knew you had it.
And
Chris,
just the sound, hearing you speak the sound of the word, it's like toning, right? It's like going along with, I mean, it allows me to go deeper, just hearing the tone and the sound and to see the visual too. Very powerful.
All of those things are available. A complete side note that you may not know: when Harvard was first founded, the language of instruction in Harvard was Hebrew. I mean,
Chris, may I ask you, are you fluent in Hebrew?
not at all. I just have a good accent.
You really do. Like you pronounce, I lived in Israel for 6 months and I've got some family there and I speak a little bit, but you really pronounce things so well. I thought, oh, you must be fluent.
I was gifted with the ability to speak well in various languages. Thank you very much.
Languages. Beautiful.
I have a little bit more, but not very much. I did have a prayer in there somewhere, but yeah, thank you. Okay, well, let's move forward. This is we're going to get into the Kabbalah. It's so the structure on the left, you'll be seeing this more, but the structure on the left, what I would just say is that it might be helpful to see, it might be helpful to see me. I'm wearing my Kabbalah shirt that I just got. Okay, you can make them on Amazon. Okay, so this structure is this traditional structure for the Kabbalah in the way I'm going to talk about it. And there are three, I'm going to use the word sphere at the moment, three sphere on top, and there are set sphere below, higher up in the divinity dimensions, and the ones below are lower down in the divinity dimensions. And as a matter of fact, the meditation that we went through at the very beginning was this. And what I did is I took you through each of these spheres. So you've already been here. Okay, that was fun. All right, let's go to the next page. Okay, let me see. Hold on. 30. What am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to say anything on 30? All right. Kabbalah is a mystical framework for understanding the universe and our place within it, rooted in Jewish tradition and seeking a deeper connection with the divine. It is about understanding how we, as finite beings, relate to an infinite, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent being. It is about understanding the relationship from our perceivable reality to the spiritual world that is beyond our perception. So, Christine, when you were asking what is mysticism, that's a really good example of a definition. And I know it's hard to grasp, but we're going to go through some more information. All right. So where did the Kabbalah come from? What you're looking at there on the left is a scroll, Torah. Torah is the first 5 books: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And then I'll mention the second piece in a minute. So where did the Kabbalah come from? When God gave the 10 commandments, a miracle occurred. Every Jew understood the message perfectly. Remember, we were talking about knowledge and belief? We're definitely in belief. All right, let's be very clear. We are now in the realm of belief. When God gave the 10 commandments, a miracle occurred. Every Jew understood the message perfectly, regardless of their age or wisdom. This was possible because God is infinite and so is the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, which holds endless levels of meaning from the most basic to the most profound and hidden. The deepest of these levels, the 5 books of Moses, passed down from God to Moses at Sinai, is Kabbalah. Kabbalah is not separate from the Torah. It is the deepest way to understand it. It helps us grasp the meaning of God's relationship with humanity and the world, and why, and this is important from a Jewish standpoint, why we perform mitzvot, commandments. I'm going to get to this. Those of you who have an ear for this, the Kabbalah is why we perform mitzvot. So put a little star on a piece of paper for that. Kabbalah teaches that people are inherently holy because we're made in God's image, meaning we reflect the entire creation on a smaller scale. Our actions have a cosmic impact on the universe. Understanding this shows us how important it is to study the Torah and to follow God's will, because our choices create a ripple effect through the cosmos. So again, I'm reminding you, this is a belief system. Judaica. All right. Now, the Zohar the Zohar is has a really interesting history. I'm going to make it super short, the history of the Zohar. There was a guy in the 1300s, and he decided that he had some things he wanted to say, and he was channeling. And he was in Spain. And he sat down. I think he went into a cave with his son for 3 years or something. Anyway, he sat down and he wrote what you see there, the 23 volumes. And he said, I found this. It was written in the year 200. It was written 1,000 years ago. But I found it. And his wife said, why did you tell them that? And he said, well, because if I told them that I had just written it, they wouldn't believe me. Okay, that's the shortest version of the Zohar I've ever heard. So the reflection, I'm going to give you a reflection of the Zohar. There's a guy, Daniel Matt, who, you know, Hyatt Hotel is owned by Pritzker. And Pritzker's the governor of one of those states back there. And those people have a lot of money, and they're Jewish, and they were studying, the woman was studying Zohar and in Hebrew, and she was having a hard time. And she says, can we get this translated? And she was able to convince Rabbi Daniel Mott, who was very young at Stanford, that he should translate the Zohar for her. He spent 18 years and he created 23 volumes. And you're looking at the result. So this is 18 years of work by Daniel Matt. Now, I'm reading from the foreword of that edition. Though Zohar's prose is poetic, overflowing with multiple connotations, composed in such a way that you can often not pin down the precise meaning of a phrase, the language befits the subject matter. It is mysterious, elusive, and ineffable. Ineffable means you can't understand it. Words can merely suggest and hint. An unfathomable process may be stated and then immediately denied. And here's a quote from the Zohar. It split and did not split its aura. That's what's in those 23 volumes, language like that. And he translated it. Occasionally, we encounter oxymorons, such as new ancient words alluding to the dual nature of the Zohar's secrets, recently composed yet ascribed to ancient sources. The first impulse of divine emanation, emanation is like radiation, radiating. The first impulse of divine emanation is described as a spark of impenetrable darkness, so intensely bright that it cannot be seen. I'm going to read that sentence again. This is the mystery of the Zohar. This is why the Zohar is so hard to read. The first impulse of divine radiation was described as a spark of impenetrable darkness, so intensely bright that it cannot be seen. Can you imagine wading through 23 volumes of that? He gets a hero's medal. All right. I have a timeline, and if anybody wants to know more, this timeline is available. There. And basically what this shows is the evolution of the Kabbalah. Legend has it that Abraham had it. I didn't put Abraham on here. I'm starting at year 0. There were some books before in Spain. Then Islam came about. And then the Christian Crusades and the expulsions of the Jews from Western Europe. And this is when the medieval Kabbalah that we just looked at was written. And then they all got kicked out. And then there was a printing house. This turquoise here is the 1400s, the first Hebrew printing house. And they just jumped on the printing and they started massive printings of Hebrew language books. It's amazing. So the Hebrew language was many of the very first books. And then there was this second guy, the guy who wrote it. And then there was a second guy that we usually use his words. And then after that, the Jews emigrated to Palestine and the Hasidic Judaism was founded. France and the United States started to accept the Jews. With Hasidic Judaism coming about, there was a guy who pretended to be something. He ended up falling in love with the Torah and he married a Torah scroll and he lost his mind. And then there was Zionism and the revival of the Hebrew language, which started in the 19th century. And we have the modern Kabbalah and the academic Kabbalah, and it began to be shared. So you don't need to know all this detail, but that's kind of how it came through the centuries. Mostly it was initially written in the 13th, ascribed to the 2nd century, and then in the 16th century, this guy did a lot of work on it. And then they didn't want to share it with anyone, and then they decided they should share it. Okay. So, medieval Spain, what am I going to talk about? Medieval Spain. The Zohar is a major medieval Jewish text of mysticism and esoteric teaching, considered a peak of Jewish imagination. It is a key spiritual work that explores sacred ideas and deep connections, including love between master and disciple, mystical companions, the souls of Israel, God's presence, and divine male and female elements. And then all sorts of bad things happened to the Jews. You guys are kind of aware of that. Okay. And then I just showed you the timeline. They eventually came out of that. All right. So what is the Kabbalah? It can be called the union of wisdom and prophecy. So Chokhmah is wisdom. Chokhmah is wisdom. And it's Nebuah. Nebuah is prophecy. So the word Kabbalah, when you take these letters and use Gematria on them, Kabbalah, you get 137. But if you look at the word Chokhmah, which means wisdom, and it has 73, and then the word Nevuah, which is prophecy, that's 64, 73 plus 64 is 137. 137. So Kabbalah can be understood as the union or marriage of wisdom and prophecy. So you guys can see how you could take any of these ideas and go jump on the internet for days and weeks and months. It just, what do I want to find out? But this is part of that intro. Why would non-Jews study Kabbalah? And make sure I'm in that space. Yes. So why would a non-Jew study Kabbalah? So Kabbalah attracts non-Jews for a few key reasons. And I'm discussing non-Jews before I say more about Jews, because there's a big Jewish thing coming up after this. But non-Jews study the Kabbalah for a couple of key reasons. One is universal wisdom. Many people see Kabbalah as a source of universal wisdom that goes beyond specific religious traditions. They're drawn to its insights into questions about existence, consciousness, and spirituality. Kabbalah study offers a deeper understanding of the world that resonates with them, no matter their background. So if you resonate with universal wisdom, the Kabbalah might be something to look into. Also for spiritual awakening. For some, Kabbalah offers a path to spiritual awakening, a way to gain deeper self-awareness and to better understand one's place in the universe. Such a journey of self-discovery and personal growth can be very intriguing and powerful. On its face, it would seem that the study of Kabbalah would be quite reasonable. Who wouldn't want to better understand the universe and our place in it? Who wouldn't want to be able to integrate wisdom with prophecy? Jewish tradition is 5,000 years old, so that's something. Most spiritual seekers are looking for a deeper connection with the divine, and study of the Kabbalah could offer that. But let's also explore very briefly some other impressions of Kabbalah to get a sense of the attendant mystery and the cautions around pursuing it. So this is the cautionary part. Warnings about Kabbalah study persist, although the original religious reasons from a conservative environment are less relevant today. So it used to be you can't study Kabbalah because it will poison your mind. You're not ready for it. But current concerns largely focus on the association with the occult, black magic, and also scammers exploiting individuals for money, despite the fact that authentic teachings are free. Madonna is actually, if you look her up, like, why did Madonna quit Kabbalah? And it's because somebody took a whole bunch of her money and said, you need to pay me in order to learn. And that's not true. So what are the dangers of Kabbalah? Before learning Kabbalah, it is important to understand how to do so safely. The Torah holds powerful psychological and spiritual energy. We have seen that improper study has led to mental health issues, even for those initially stable. A Talmudic story illustrates this concern. 4 sages entered the orchard, the spiritual realm. Rabbi Ben Azai died. Rabbi Ben Zoma lost his mind. Rabbi Elisha ben Avuya lost his faith. And only Rabbi Akiva emerged safely. Rabbi Akiva eventually died of the plague with 2,400 of his students. So maybe he didn't emerge safely after all. And this other guy, Shabbatai Tzvi, really interesting character, probably had a lot of mental health problems that we would recognize today. As I said, he fell in love with the Torah and he married the Torah. And then the Islam people came and they said, okay, convert or die. And he had a lot of followers. So he decided he converted to Islam. So the Jews weren't very happy about that one of their Kabbalistic leaders had converted to Islam. So he's not held in a lot of esteem. And for that reason, the tradition is that Kabbalah study is limited to married men over 40 who have already mastered the Torah and the Talmud, which is a related text. And this restriction is meant to ensure a strong foundation, preventing confusion or imbalance from complex mystical teachings. And marriage, I thought this was interesting. Marriage is seen as a reflection of the soul's duality and unity. So if you're married, you can experience duality as well as unity, and that's context for Kabbalah's concepts. So that place that I just spoke from, not everybody is ready to go there or to stay there or to come back out of it. I want to give you one other piece, kind of fits in here a little bit. So I think you guys all know that Judaism was is known for being the first monotheistic religion. That's kind of its tagline, first monotheistic. Well, number one, it's not really true, but number two, that's really not the whole story. And one of the really interesting things that I've been working with, like if I were to choose one thing that I'm working with on here, monotheism is like super base. It's like, okay, there's a bunch of gods and I'm going to choose one, and my God's going to be bigger and stronger than yours, and he's the only one. And so you guys should go with my God because he's the one. But that's like super, super base. That's foundational. That's like kind of on the ground in the dirt. Where I'm working with it is I've opened my receptors to the idea that God is about unity. God is a unifying force, which is a whole different thing from being monotheistic. So if that rings any bells for you, if that makes any sense, it's kind of like anybody can sit and talk. You don't have to be 40 years old and married and all of that to sit and talk about monotheism, but you might want to have some wisdom behind you to be able to grok, well, then what is unity? Because it's not an elementary conversation. Okay, enough on that. Let's take a look at the Kabbalah. It's a framework for understanding the nature of God. It seeks to reveal the underlying interconnectedness. Now, we are not going to go into this. I want to show you, I'm literally introducing you to the picture, okay? When we did that meditation, I started here at the base and went through these different things up into here, and then brought you back down. So as I say, you've already experienced in the briefest moment walking through the structure, but to actually work with this is, you know, a life's journey. And examples are, let me see if I have an example. I thought I had an example. I'll have to come back to it. I have one. So a word to learn is the word Sefirot. Let me see if I have that here. These are emanations or vessels. So an emanation, think of God radiating. Okay, emanation, we'll call this a radiance, if you will, a pushing out radiance. And this word Sefirot actually means sapphire, but it can also refer to the spheres. So what we're going to look at these different items is that they are actually vessels. So we're getting from the word radiant to the word sphere, and now we're going to talk about them as vessels because that's going to come up. At the bottom, where's the bottom? Malkut. It's not on here. Somehow we lost it. Okay, so all of these images are available online. If you go in and you type in Kabbalah tree of life, or just Kabbalah, or you type in Sefirot, you could write that down on a piece of paper if you want. You'll have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these diagrams. But basically, it's what is the interplay? As an example, the judgment and kindness. You need a balance between judgment and kindness. If you're too judgmental, you'll hurt someone's feelings. But if you just let them do whatever, you'll hurt their path because you need to set boundaries with them. So this is all about balance, all about balance. And I'm in the moment, I'm not going to go into it. I think maybe just reading through, we have the Malchut, which kingdom. This is here now, third plane. Yisod is the foundation. See, there's so much to be said about these things. This is about truth, splendor and humility and gratitude. This is eternity and victory and endurance. So these are concepts that you work with a teacher, you work with a group. I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. It's the field is so big. If this is appealing or interesting to you, you can go out and search on it. You can access videos, as I've already mentioned, and absolutely you can contact me, and we can walk through it together without being limited by time. Okay, so we have these 10 sephirot, these 10 vessels. This is the crown, the highest divinity, and there's an upwardness here and a downwardness going this way. All right, so let's see what page I'm on. All right. So here are some methods and approaches that are used to study the Kabbalah and its texts. One, understanding the Sefirot. There are 10 divine emanations or attributes that bridge the infinite, unknowable divine essence. Ein Sof. Ein Sof is the no thing, the no thingness, and the finite. So the infinite and the finite created world. They are channels of divine energy. So each of these lines is a channel. And it's like the web. Think of it as the World Wide Web. You can talk to this one and go back over here, go down here, go over here, come back here. They're all interconnected. They're channels of divine creative life force or consciousness through which God reveals his will. The Sefirot function both as lights, revealing God's infinite power, and vessels. We'll come back to the vessels. They are building blocks of creation, the ingredients that constitute all of creation. Contemplating the divine nothingness. And so now this is, so if you've ever looked at the dimensions and talked about the void is, Ein Sof is beyond the void. So you have the Big Bang, you have the void, and then you have what's beyond the void. Ein Sof is the part beyond the void, but the void also exists within the Kabbalah. This leads to devotional fulfillment through action. Recognition of the role of Sefirot in manifesting the divine purpose. We're going to talk about this in a minute. Focusing on expressing the Sefirot in daily inspiration and service to God. How can I be appropriately judgmental or set boundaries in my life? How can I be appropriately loving kind in my life? How can I show wisdom? How can I show patience? Emphasis of the connection between the Sefirot and the human soul. The soul has corresponding powers that mirror the divine emanations. So we have this in ourselves. This is not outside of us. There's the part that's outside of us, and then there's the mirror of it within ourselves. And so, as we go, as God goes, so go we. As we go, so goes God. And there are specific meditations on the Sefirot in the body to connect the divine qualities on a personal level. What I will mention is that some people have done stuff with these Sefirot. They've put them onto chakras. They put them onto the Vitruvian man. They put them onto bodies. They do stuff with them. And the Jewish people say, no, don't do that, but they do it. So if you decide that you want to work with these like a chakra, you won't be the first. They're not chakras, but if you decide that's how you want to treat them, why not? If it moves you forward, go for it. All right. Now let's look at Genesis. We're going to look at the Zohar. This is from King James. In the beginning, this is Genesis 1:1 and 1:2. Okay, hopefully you'll recognize this. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Now, I'll tell you that's 39 words, okay? 2 verses, 39 words. This is what the Zohar says about Genesis 1 and 2. And it's a modern translation of the original 1300. Genesis 1. With the beginning of the manifestation of the king or God's will, that is, when the king or God desired to emanate and create the world, a hard spark made an engraving upon the supernal light. It emanated from the most concealed of all concealed things, from the secret of the endless light, took a shapeless form. The spark was then inserted into the center of a circle that was neither white, nor black, nor red, nor green, nor any color at all. When it began its measurements, it created colors that shone into the empty space and the engraving. From within the hard spark, a fountain spouted, from which the shades down below received their colors. That's what he channeled off of, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Oh, darn. Okay. How about number 2? From the most concealed of all concealed things, from the secret of the endless light, emanated 2 faces. One cleaved or broke off, and the other did not cleave. Its atmosphere was unknown until forceful blows split Atik, and a concealed supernal point shone. Beyond this point, nothing is knowable, and because of this, it is called by the name beginning, which means the first of the sayings. That was his channel of verse number 2. So when I tell you that the Zohar is 23 volumes long, that's how come it's 23 volumes. This is what the Zohar is. So it's a big push to engage the Zohar, and many people never do. You know, they kind of go around it. This is tough stuff. All right. I want to go further into the Kabbalah. I'm going to skip what I've got there. Let's talk about the shattering of the vessels. Remember, I mentioned the vessels, right? So these are vessels, okay? So think of these, and then we'll go back to this picture. This is a story, and you get to decide how you wish to hold it in your sense of metaphysics and spirituality. So back to Genesis 2, this one here, on the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and God, Spirit of God, moved upon the face of the waters. All right. Before anything, there was Ein Sof, a term that means the infinite and everything beyond. It represents God before any form of creation or emanation occurs, a state of pure potentiality, far, far greater than the concept of the void. Ein Sof is not only infinite, but also transcends even the concept of being, representing a state of nothingness, no thingness, in relation to human perception, a place where everything is also no thing. We're back to Schrodinger's cat. According to the Zohar, the first action of divinity was an inward one. Now, this is super technical. It was a contraction. So God performed a contraction. It refers to the concept of God's self-contraction or withdrawal to create a void, thus allowing for the possibility of a finite world and free will. It is a paradoxical idea where God, the infinite, limits himself to make space for creation and the existence of other beings. This contraction is not a physical act, but a metaphysical one, creating a space for the finite world to exist. So God, in his infinity, contracted himself to make space for finite world. And in Hebrew, this is tzimtzum. If you've ever heard of it, tzimtzum. This explanation helps solve the question of how the existence of the world is possible if divinity, which is infinite, fills all space. By an act of withdrawal, a space infinitesimally small in comparison to God's infinity, that small space is created in which all dimensions of existence can unfold. The story goes that during creation, God formed 10 sephirot, the 10 vessels, to act as channels or filters to convey light in order to manifest himself. The sephirot are not God, but they are the medium through which specific qualities and attributes can be ascribed to him. Without these channels or filters, God's infinite light would have overwhelmed and obliterated worlds and creatures that were placed at lower levels of holiness. So going back here, this is God's emanations, and God's used these as filters so that we down here can work with God, because we would be blown out if we encountered God up here. My version. However, during the formation of the 10 sephirot, the 10 spheres, the upper 3 spheres were able to hold the divine light, but the lower 7 were overwhelmed. So these 3 up on top could hold the divine light, but the lower sephirot were overwhelmed, and they shattered and fell along with the remnants of the divine light. This is known as the fallen divine sparks. They are sometimes referred to as shards. These shards, or sparks of holiness, from the shattered vessels were strewn throughout our world. Some of the shards were thrown far afield and formed klipot, shells or husks in Hebrew, negative, impure, or evil forces that obscure the divine light, and they represent sources of suffering. So these broken shards are described as the opposite of holiness, acting as barriers or distortions of divine presence. Where if God's infinite light were always manifest, man would not have free will. If a person were always aware of God's presence, transgressing God's will would be impossible. God therefore concealed his light, and in so doing allowed man to choose freely between doing good and doing evil. Wow. Okay. I love this picture. So.
Hey, Chris, would you
Yeah.
say that again,
Yeah.
please?
Were God's infinite light always manifest, man would not have free will. If a person were always aware of God's presence, transgressing his will would not be possible. God therefore concealed his light, and in doing so allowed man to choose freely between doing good and doing evil.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So that's what that is, okay? All right. Let's go here. So while we may sometimes be feeling imperfect, less than perfect, we are all surely in our imperfection within this divine and perfect world created specifically for us. I'm going to reread that, and then I'm going to expound on it. While we may sometimes be feeling imperfect or less than perfect, we are all surely in our imperfection within this divine and perfect world created specifically for us. We have been placed into this realm in which darkness and evil prevail, enabling us to have free choice in our lives. One of humanity's spiritual missions is to gather up those holy sparks from wherever they may be and elevate them to their original level. I'm going to go back to the picture. I'm just giving you the structure again. Okay. So these guys exploded and we're trying to get things back to where they're supposed to be. That's the explosion. That's God. That's evil. Here we go.
So, Chris?
Yeah.
Could that be the yods?
I don't know what a yod is.
It's a spark. It's,
Yes.
yeah, okay. All right.
One of humanity's spiritual missions is to gather up those holy sparks from wherever they may be and elevate the sparks to their original level. We accomplish this mission, and this is important, going back to belief. We accomplish this mission by means of Torah study, prayer, and the performance of mitzvot, that is, following God's commandments. When we do so, the prayer, the study, the prayer, and the good deeds, when we do so, we are not just doing a good deed on a physical level, we are also making a cosmic repair, gathering a divine spark and returning it to its source. Okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. This repair is called Tikkun or Tikkun Olam, the repair of the world. Tikkun is not just external, it's also internal. Kabbalah emphasizes that our own souls are composed of these divine sparks. By engaging in Tikkun, repair of the world, study, prayer, good deeds, by engaging in Tikkun, we are also repairing and elevating our own souls, leading to personal wholeness and spiritual growth. We work to repair God, we work to repair the world, we work to repair us. It's all kind of a Russian doll. Ultimately, humanity's role is to participate in this repair by identifying and elevating these scattered sparks, thus bringing the world closer to its original state of wholeness and perfection, both within the individual and within the larger cosmos. In essence, here's the important part, Kabbalah offers a roadmap for understanding the brokenness of the world and provides the spiritual tools and motivation for actively participating in its repair, ultimately leading to a state of profound wholeness on all levels of existence. I'm going to read that again. In essence, Kabbalah offers a roadmap for understanding the brokenness of the world and provides the spiritual tools and motivation for actively participating in its repair, ultimately leading to a state of profound wholeness on all levels of existence. Okay. Before I go to the end slide, which is just an end slide, would anybody like to weigh in? This is deep stuff.
I would like to say that I'm really grateful that I showed up, and I apologize for being late. But mitzvot, the mitzvah which you spoke of, and tikkun olam, or tikkun olam, I don't know how to actually pronounce that correctly, but just seems like the goodness, like the light that we have within. And here we are trying to hold the light for all of humanity and the shifts that are happening. Um, yeah, I don't know much more to say. I'm not sure how to say all of what I'm feeling or thinking, but I'm super grateful for your teachings, and I hope to be able to connect and learn more from you. So thank you, Chris.
Yeah, words fail me all the time on this stuff. Okay, anybody else on this aspect stuff?
Christine has raised her hand. Christine?
Um, being a follower of the Course of Miracles, and also I was aware that there was a time when God, the name of God, could not be spoken. It was maybe so sacred, so special. I see, well, the Course of Miracles essentially talks about we are all one. We did not create ourselves. There, uh, we are all one, and yes, God created us. Well, I'm trying to simplify the Course of Miracles, and it's very involved, and I can see all the meaning and not being brought up Jewish, but I actually have an interesting, my stepbrother, who we all were brought up Lutheran, and our pastor really believed that Dennis would be a pastor. I mean, he was so into really, well, he is reformed Jewish. Yes, he married a Jewish woman, um, and he's not a rabbi, but he was like over the whole Northwest district. Um, he's very, very involved in his church or synagogue. Um,
Well,
and
this information, whether it's this or other aspects of Judaism, can spark an interest in people that people want to pursue, and then people can pursue to the degree that they want to. I've really gotten repeated on this belief, right? Because I mean, think of that other religion out there that celebrities are part of that says that they came from aliens. It's like, do you really believe that? And I think it's really important to understand what is my threshold? What of this makes sense? What of this resonates in me such that I want to take myself further along this journey because doing so will make a difference to me in my life, my relationship with other people, and my relationship with whatever I perceive God to be. So a
Well,
person doesn't need to be Jewish, but what if a person wanted to pursue some of these ideas? As an example, the way to heal the world is to study scripture, to pray, and to do good deeds. Who's not going to like that, right? So I think that in terms of
Chris,
where we can take this, we can take it any way that resonates with us.
the thing, my faith, I have had mystical experiences. And that's part of because yes, I'm a person that I kept asking, prove it to me. Well, I got proof. The thing is, yeah, I can see where this, if if you're an academic, if you're really interested in knowledge, yes, it would be very motivating.
Let me go ahead and I have just one more slide. Let me go ahead and move to that, and then we'll see what other people might want to say before we close. All I want to do here is review what we talked about tonight. We looked at the Hebrew alphabet, the origin and evolution, the foundation of the Western letter systems, the fact that each Hebrew letter has meaning and essence by itself and in combination, the whole idea that God created the world from speech. Every kadabri. We looked at Hebrew numerology called Gematria, a whole different area to go pursue if you're interested. You can discover hidden and mystical relationships between ideas or physical representations based on numeric values of components. And then we took a look at Kabbalah, its origin in Mount Sinai, the relationship to the Torah, the immense and cryptic book of the Zohar, the complexity of the text, the 10 spheres or sephirot that represent the vessels or channels for God's wisdom to flow through, the primordial shattering of the vessels and dispersion of the sparks, and the role of humankind to help repair the world one commandment at a time to bring about a return to its original state of wholeness and perfection. So what I want to say is there's far more to study and explore about the alphabet, Gematria, and Kabbalah than I can lay out in one evening. My hope is that you may have found something of interest here, and in your own time, at your own pace, you may decide to take another peek under the veil into the mystical world of Jewish mysticism. And I do want to say a blessing after Torah study. So I'm going to say it in Hebrew and then I'll translate. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chaye olam nata b'teochenu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has given us the Torah of truth, and who has planted everlasting life in our midst. Blessed are you, the Lord, giver of the Torah. So for as many minutes as there may be left, Janet, can you see if anybody wants to say anything.
Yes, we're actually right at 8 p.m. So I want to honor if people need to leave, if they have a hard stop. But absolutely, I want to invite anyone to share or say anything and invite you, because of the incredible quality of this presentation, invite you to consider donating to our speaker series so we can continue to have these incredible moments of wisdom sharing and teaching. And I want to thank you, Chris, for bringing this to the surface and letting us take a look both visually and take a look in our heart in a beautiful way about what can resonate and what we're needing in these challenging times. So, absolutely. Would anyone else like to share or say anything?
Annie, are you there? Do you want to pipe in by chance? Can I get you to say anything?
No.
Okay.
I it's a lot. I'm digesting.
Yeah.
I remember my cousin told me a long time ago that the Kabbalah is more like numerology. It's a very, very deep and mystical numerology. And so I could see the tie-in with that. And it was it's it definitely hit me in some deep places, and don't really have any interpretations or things to state right now except that I love you. It was great.
Mhm.
Thanks, Annie.
Yeah,
And Jake, I didn't see you there earlier. Did you catch most of it?
I did. And I when you were finished reading the prayer, I was trying to unmute to say amen. But I no, it's such a wide-ranging and in-depth subject that, that's why a lot of people, I would say most people, never even start uh, getting into it because of the, uh, like I said, the complexity and the depth that it goes into. Uh, Most people will work on the Torah, and that book, and through Judaism, questioning is one of the most important learning things that you could have when you're in discussion. And it's always polite discussion, uh, because you want to have people understand the nuances of what's said. And I find that Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, and we really have to look at it on a social basis too. And the people who are working environmentally are trying to do that. And there are other groups working in various different ways in trying to repair the world. And we have to give them a lot of credit. This is repairing the world mentally uh, and spiritually, and they're trying to do it a different way.
Thanks, man.
And thank you, Chris, for putting this together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I would just like to add that Joan Stutz also said in the chat, I liked the final idea of putting the world together.
Yeah.
And you've
That's a
also
basic
received, yes,
tenet of Judaism.
yeah.
Okay. Anybody else before we move along? Michelle or Luis? Oh, I'm sorry, Patty.
That's okay. I'm trying to put the words together. It's not coming easily. What I'm feeling is echoing a lot of what other people have already expressed. But number one, it was really an outstanding talk, and it was just so
Yes.
informative.
Mhm.
It really stirs this deep, it's like this, it's like a deep mysticism that is in there, is a part of us, and that we can expand into it. And I find that really, really exciting. And I think that what is profound to me is that what you shared tonight is ancient. I mean, this is really ancient. And I've got this theory of because if you look way back when, that's when so many rich teachings came about. And I think it's because the earth wasn't as polluted as it is now.
Mm.
Just think that there was just this incredible clarity that was coming in from so many different directions. And, so it's just a beautiful teaching. And, it's very thorough. I'm excited about it. It makes me want to learn more. So thank you so much, Chris. Yeah, as I say, it's not easy to put into words, how I'm feeling, but clearly it's deep, it's rich, it is incredibly powerful and meaningful. And it is something that so many of us need right now. So thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of echoing of thank yous, Chris. So please receive that.
Oh, excellent.
Take that into your heart, because this was, incredibly detailed, but it also had an overlay of the incredible simplicity, of what we have to do.
Yes, yes. I mean, I had fun with this last one here. Study and pray and be good to other people.
Yeah.
I found so another thing that I found was a real new idea. Well, I love the shattering. I just love that part. But I found a new relationship for me with Tikkun Olam, repairing the world. I really liked how it matters what we do. And I think that's kind of again, words are so difficult, but it matters. It matters what we do. And I'll bring up something Hopi for a moment. The Hopi sense of time is the actions I take today will affect my grandmother's happiness in her childhood. And
yes,
I love that. I live there. I like it. I enjoy it. And I think that there's an aspect of Tikkun Olam also where what is it that we're doing now, and how is it how does it affect the totality, right? We're outside time, we're outside space, we're right. So a new perspective on who yeah, again, words, right? Who am I as an individual, and what does it matter? And I think with this presentation, there's a point where you can get to say it matters a whole lot. It matters, and here's a visual representation of why it matters and how it matters and what can be done. Yeah.
Beautifully said. And also, it reminds us of the spark, the shattering, but also the reclaiming.
All right.
Would
Yeah, so if anybody wants to get a hold of me, if you don't know how, you can probably find out from the person who gave you the link. And we'll see I don't know if there were to be Janet, you can look and see if there's a possibility of creating a group, etc.
Beautiful. And I mean, I think anywhere we can take this wisdom to a deeper place, perhaps having another speaker series. Yeah. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your participation, for your energetic presence, as we held the ground for Chris to share her amazing wisdom. And next month, in August, we are going to have our wonderful Reverend Corky Whitaker, and she is going to be discussing Ebert, which is earthbound entity released technique, which she has developed, and also psychic protection. So I think it's a perfect follow-up to what you opened up the door for us, Chris. And I just want to thank you for going deep and not being afraid to share the details. I really needed to hear that for myself personally. I really needed to be able to delve deeply. And I believe what I'm going to do is relook at this presentation, which, by the way, my friends, you can get on the UCM website. We will have this recording available for you to hear, so we can go back and revisit it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you,
Blessings
Chris.
and great thanks.
Thank you.